Yo, what's going on, everybody? Double move, Foots here. Listen, we can't get too high, we can't get too low. At least that's the approach I'm taking, Zach. Um, we're gonna talk Dallas defense versus the Saints offense, who did have a really good showing versus the Carolina Panthers. But before we do, Zach, how's everything? How you doing? Just a quick check in. How are you?
Dude, I've been good. Hey, it's Cowboys win week. We get
Yeah,
more football on Sunday.
yeah.
This is the best time of the year. It genuinely doesn't get better than this. So, I'm good making videos, making Cowboys content. It don't get much better.
It doesn't get much better, Zach. So getting right into it, Zach, this New Orleans team just feels a little bit different. Throughout the offseason, it was, well, they're kind of boring. It's Dennis Allen on the hot seat. And they come out and they beat a Carolina team. Now, here's my thoughts before we get into the breakdown. Zach, I'm watching Xavier Woods try to cover. I'm watching JC Horn not look like himself. One of my first thoughts when we talk about this Saints offense, I got to be honest, I just don't think that Carolina is a good team, even still. Like, they're just so far away personnel wise, Zach. It's honestly kind of sad for Bryce Young, who I was really high on. But they're just so far away personnel wise, Zach, that I don't know if you can really judge that team. Like, I'm watching, and obviously they lost Brian Burns, and I'm watching Carr drop back, and it's like there's literally no pressure. And when pressure got there late, it was like Carr was able to step up. He was able to make throws. The deep throw to Shaheed, and we'll get to him later. There actually was a little bit of pressure, but it was like Carr was able to go from 1 to 2 to 3, which was Shaheed. And it was like, man, I just don't think that's going to be able to happen with this Cowboys pass rush. But Zach, are the Saints offense good? Is it a good offense, or was Carolina just a bad judge?
I think it was more so about Carolina than it was about the Saints. Now, like you said, it does feel like a different Saints team. Doesn't feel
Yeah.
the same, but I genuinely believe that the Carolina Panthers have a chance of going 0-17. That when you look
Yeah.
back at that win that the Saints had in week 1, it doesn't tell you really anything about that team. The lines after both of those games on BetUS and other places
Yes.
did not change at all. It was 6.5 before Sunday, 6.5 after Sunday. That's what it's kind of telling you about those two teams. Carolina's not a good measuring stick. They don't match up personnel wise. The speed looked completely different. Like you said, even
Yes.
JC Horn didn't play very well, and he's healthy. So I think it says more about Carolina being as bad as they are, more so than how good the Saints are.
I completely agree, Zach. And speaking of BetUS, our dynamic sponsors, BetUS. Zach kind of teased it, but the line is at 6.5. Zach, all your betting needs, anything you need, futures, Cowboys props, player props, BetUS has you taken care of. All you got to do, bet 150, bet YouTube 150 or bet 150. Zach will have it in the description with a good but bet us. Make sure you guys show our dynamic sponsors BetUS some love. Zach, let's start talking about these matchups. To me, one of the best weapons on the Saints roster, Rashid Shaheed. He's a speedster. It's so funny seeing him wear 22 at receiver. Just kind of like throws you off. Zach, how do you feel about that matchup? Because to me, I think it's twofold. Last week, the Saints had the number one pass block rate, PFF. Okay. That's not going to happen this week. uh, Derek Carr will not have that much time to throw the ball against Micah Parsons, to throw the ball against Marshawn Nealon, to throw the ball against DeMarcus Lawrence. And it sounds like Marshawn Nealon is going to play. Zach, how do you feel about it's a twofold answer for me because I like Shaheed, but the problem is, will Derek Carr have time to throw the ball against Shaheed? That's what we don't know.
Think about going back to the Vikings game in 2022, I believe, with Justin Jefferson. He had, I think, 3 targets in the game. He had 1 catch for like 3 yards. The Cowboys' defensive line was all over Minnesota's offensive line in that game. Kirk Cousins had no time to throw. And with a guy like Shaheed, you want to you want those explosive plays. And I was talking about it. He's the only guy, only Tyreek Hill has more 50-plus yard receiving touchdowns than
Yes.
Shaheed since 2022. Well, to get those explosive plays, unless it's a catch the ball underneath, make a few guys miss, and then get upfield, which is a complete possibility. He needs time. Derek Carr needs time. And with guys like Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Marshawn Nealand, he's not going to have that time to move around in the pocket. You have the speed of the Cowboys defense is levels ahead of what Carr saw against Carolina. I do like Shaheed and I really like Chris Olave. I like both of those receivers. And during the draft process, I really liked Olave. That's probably their number one guy. But if they have a receiver that really scares me, it's Rashid Shaheed. Just the speed. I saw a thing that he had 3 of the top 20 speeds of week 1. He was 3 of his plays ranked inside the top 20 fastest ball carriers. So that tells you a lot about what the Cowboys are going to think about him and how the Saints are probably going to try and use him.
Yeah, and I think that it'll be a good test for Diggs and it'll be a good test for Kalen Carson. Both of those guys, because I'll tell you this, you're absolutely right when it comes to Chris Olave. He is their number one. Just because he had an okay game week 1, he's the guy. Like, that's who's gonna work over the middle. He's gonna route run. He did all those things at Ohio State at a high clip. I wouldn't be surprised if he leads this game in receiving yards and attempts this game. I think the game went, like, literally everything went in the Saints' favor. They score. Bryce Young throws a pick on the very next play. They score again. It was just one of those games, and then it just goes back to the talent level. Now, one thing that I will want to watch is this. Derek Carr he's not a great quarterback, but he's a quarterback that can win you a game. And he's a quarterback that if you give him opportunities, he'll take check down, he'll move the ball, he'll do all those little things right. To me, when Derek Carr starts to get goofy is when he's pressured and he just doesn't have the athleticism to make things happen on the fly. That's not his game. So he's more so a pocket, ball out, pocket, check down, pocket, make a deep throw, take a shot. But he's not pocket, run out of the pocket, extend the play. That's not his game. He's not pocket, make a guy like Micah miss or make a defender miss. I think this game is going to come down to Mike Zimmer getting in Derek Carr's head with those AA mugs, then bailing out of there and things of that nature. Zach, what is the biggest matchup that you're watching outside of, like we just talked about, Shaheed getting deep and even Chris Olave? Is it we can cut here. Maybe is it Alvin Kamara? Is it Taysom Hill? Maybe, them sprinkling some of that in. What's the matchup that you're watching? For me, is Mike Zimmer. What's the matchup you're watching, Zach?
It is the low-hanging fruit, but you can't really say anybody other than Micah Parsons, the runner-up defensive player of the year. Trevor Penning, not a great tackle. How do
complete
you
bust?
Complete bust. How is Mike Zimmer using Micah, moving him around, lining him up over the center, lining him up or over Trevor Penning? What is he doing with the chess pieces that he has? And it really comes down to, it's more than Micah. What Mike Zimmer was doing with those linebackers last week was a beautiful thing to see. Overshown has the ability to blitz. He could cover a guy like Alvin Kamara. But I'm really agreeing with you that Mike Zimmer is really the key to this. Get in Derek Carr's face, move those pieces around, let Micah rush the passer like he can. The speed of the Dallas defense, the ability to get in the quarterback's face. We saw it with Deshaun Watson. He was completely out of that game by the second quarter mentally. And I think you got to do that again with Derek Carr.
When it comes to Derek Carr, I just don't know if he's good enough to just go out and will this team to a win versus the way that this defense is playing. Now, you did have the Thanksgiving game 2 years ago, or what is it, 2 to 3 years ago, where he was making some plays. He was keeping the Raiders alive, but I just don't think that he has enough, especially the way that this Cowboys team speed is. Like, it's going to be like going from JV to varsity, playing a JV team to a team that's just like, it's just a difference. So I do have the Cowboys winning. I do have this defense making plays. They do have Alvin Kamara. They do have some nice pieces in Chris Olave, but I don't think that they have enough to really stress the Cowboys.
I agree. I think that Derek Carr is a quarterback that you can win with, but they're not going to win because of. I don't see Derek Carr going out there lighting this defense up, especially if there's pressure in his face. and all of
Yes.
those things. I agree. I have the Cowboys winning. It just feels like a mismatch on especially that side of the ball. And we'll get to the Cowboys offensive side of the ball. I agree with you. I have the Cowboys winning this game as well. Do you want to make some score predictions? Put you on the spot here.
I have the Cowboys winning 27-10. I think it gets ugly, especially if they score early at home. I have the Cowboys winning 27-10.
Okay. I'll go 30-13.
Okay.
I have it getting ugly as well. The Cowboys at home they've been juggernauts for the past 2 years. It seems like they get a lead, they get ahead. It could be a blowout unless the Saints start scoring late in the game.
Hey, lock it in, Zach.